Hello everyone and thank you for being here. Before I start, I want for you to raise your hand, whoever has felt in the past that has had like a conflict or a situation in where you prefer to stay back to not create tension in a relationship, or maybe person that you live with and you decide to stay away of a problem, or on the contrary to react and later on you feel that you were too aggressive or maybe too inflexible with the other person. So please raise your hand if you have ever had any problem with. Okay, good. Thank you. So that's what we're here today. We're here to talk about conflict resolution strategies in roommate situations. So let's begin. As you already know, I am a senior student at San Jose State University, majoring in communication studies, and an international student. So my academic journey and my cultural background, has given me the tools and communication strategies to share with you today these conflict resolution strategies. So let's begin. Let's start by talking about the goals that we have in this workshop. And the first thing, and one of the most important, is to learn and redefine conflict, reframe conflict from something that is negative to something that is potentially constructive if we know how to handle it. And this, I say, one of the most important things, because I remember before taking any communication class, I was, especially because I come from a culture that is considered high contact culture, meaning that communication is less direct. So I remember thinking about conflict as something really negative. I didn't like to express my disagreements or my concerns because I thought that that could damage a relationship, and especially when you're living with someone, you don't want to go to bed the next day thinking that the situation or the environment is going to be tense. So that's the first part that we're going to do, just reframe the concept of conflict. And then we're going to understand what is your conflict style. And there are different conflict styles. We're going to talk about that. There is collaboration and competing and compromising, but we're going to go deeper in a few minutes in that aspect. But finally, in the workshop, we're going to learn and apply conflict resolution strategies in roommate situations. So of course, the knowledge is important, but it's more important that after this workshop, you are able to apply some of these strategies to your daily life. So let's begin. And first of all, what is conflict, right? So we see here in this image, that's the popular stereotype that conflict is about yelling, screaming, arguing, fighting. Well, no, conflict is actually not about that. Not if you know how to handle it, not if you have the strategies and tools to allow not to escalate. Because at the end of the day, conflict is just a problematic situation where two persons different parties have, or they perceive that they have incompatible goals. But because there is a relationship there is an urge to resolve the problem, right? So to resolve the problem, that's where we're going to talk about the different strategies, or the different styles that exist to solve or resolve the conflict. So for that, we're going to use the 5 styles developed by Dr. Thomas Kilmann, who is a renowned psychologist and professor who created a tool to discover your conflict resolution style. And here's when I want you to see this chart, because there is a level of cooperation and assertiveness in the communication. So the more assertive you are and the more you work to resolve the problem with the other person, that's the best possible way to resolve a conflict, right? So we have competition, which is a win-lose situation where you really want to win an argument at the expense of the other person. So therefore we can see that even though it's high in assertiveness, it's very low in cooperation because you don't really want to work with the other person. You just want to be heard, right? So this style can get what you want, but at the end of the day can damage a relationship. Then we have avoidance, which is, as the word says, that is trying to get away with the problem. Initially, in some situations can be a good strategy, especially situations that are emotional charged, because it can give both people time to reflect and to breathe when they're in a high state of anger. But it's not the preferable mode to resolve the conflict, because this type of style can actually be addressed with passive aggressiveness or silence, which is going to deteriorate the relationship as well because conflicts are not going to be resolved. And then, as we can see, it's low assertiveness and low cooperation. And then we can see accommodation style, which is give in style, where you are willing to give in to accept the other person, but this is going to really put your needs second. So it's not the best as well, because even though the other person is winning because you're choosing to, then your needs are ignored. So what we would like is to use a collaboration style, which is a win-win, where both parties find a solution that works for both, that is mutually satisfying, mutually and equally satisfying. But we can see also like there is a middle ground here in compromise. And I found in my research that most studies agree that compromise is the preferable mode for particularly in roommate situations, where like you're willing to give up something because you also get something, right? But collaboration is great when there is creativity and you can find solutions that work for both and no one has to give up anything. Okay, so so far, any questions until now, or do you have any questions on any of the styles? Or we can continue with the activity.
Okay, the compromise could be the result of any strategy styles by the end, or each one more style?
Yes, the compromise is one more style, but there it's in the middle because it's like a middle ground where it's like assertive. It's not as high or low, it's just in the middle of assertiveness and cooperation.
Everyone is agreeing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now please get your phones ready and scan this QR code, and we are going to find out what is your conflict resolution style. Please take like few minutes, 5 minutes. I'm gonna count it here, 5 minutes to do this activity, and then we can proceed with it. And just choose in the form, just pick the questions, the answer that best fit to your, what you think fit the most to your style.
No lo puedes sacar, pero está muy lejos.
Sí, pero como solo acá.
Cuando aparece, cuando lo escaneas, aparece una cosita amarilla.
You want me to help you?
Sí. Listo.
Yes, please.
Okay. So you answered all this?
Yes, please. There are 4 questions, I
Like a
think.
survey? something?
Yes, and there are different styles. So you just answer which do you think fits most with you. They ask you like how do you approach a conflict in certain situations. So you just gotta answer the winner. I'm gonna check actually the score for that. What is it?
La cámara sigue grabando. Mira la cámara si sigue grabando. ¿Pero es el cosito rojo?
Sí, pero puedes ver tú porque...
Sí.
Done.
Done? Okay. Let's wait. Let me know when you're done.
A mí.
Done? Okay. Okay, so in the answers, do you feel like, were you able to see that, okay, it was A through E, right? So if you checked in your answer, does it show you which one did you answer the most? Like which letter? Can we see? I don't know if, because I can also access, but if you see it in your end, because we want to discover what the style was, right? Can you see? Okay, it just says that the answers have been. Okay, let me just, I'm gonna check that at the,
I think mine is like a B or C.
Okay, so do you remember when you were answering, do you feel like in the questions you answered most of them were B?
Yeah, could be.
What about you?
No, I don't remember.
Do you remember that you answered, for example, in the first one was because, don't remember?
No.
What about you, Dan?
I think C.
C?
I think.
Okay, yes. Okay, so A would be avoiding, if that's what Patty chose, or competing, B. And then C is compromising, where you are willing to, like where you are concerned about, you want the other person to get something so that you are willing to give up something as well. You want to find that middle ground.
My last one is C. Yeah.
See? Okay. Okay. That's
I think
good.
I
That's one.
grade from A to C to the last one.
That's good because actually there are different. So why is this important? Because there are functional conflict resolution styles and dysfunctional, and compromising and collaborating are part of the functional style. So it's important because we know that if we approach conflict with these styles, we're going to resolve conflict in the most effective and healthy way. Okay, but now that we know or we get an idea of which one is our style, we're gonna talk about a strategy that has really transformed my life, has helped me a lot in different relationships and even at work. So let's see how you can apply it.
Okay.
And that's the I statements. So what happens with conflict is that sometimes, or when we feel frustrated or when we don't like something, we tend to put blame in the other person. But I statement is great because certainly you can disagree that you don't do something, but you cannot disagree the way I feel, right? And I'm gonna give you an example, so it makes more sense. But it's a formula that we can use to communicate whenever we want to tell someone something that we don't like. We say, I feel, the formula is I feel, and then we follow with when, because, I would like, that's what we want that person to get done, or we want that person to change. So how does it work? Let me show you a quick example from my book, which this is how the structure works. So we have the feeling statement, right? Then the problem behavior, a consequence, and the goal. That's what we want to accomplish with what we're communicating, right? So we can say the problem situation can be that we rent our car to our roommate, and that's the first example here, and we're using roommate situations. And now we have zero gas, right? And how can we communicate that? So we would say the feeling statements is that I feel annoyed when I have to put gas in my car after you use it, because I end up having to take the time to get gas, and then what we want to do. I like you to get gas after you use my car. So you get an idea of the structure?
Yes.
We can get another example here. So following the same strategy, let's do the second. Okay, I feel depressed when I hear about all the fun others are having because the doctor says I have to remain inactive. I prefer to talk about other topics. So it's just addressing something that they don't like, but it's addressing it with their feelings. So you cannot disagree with how I feel, right? So we're gonna do that. Let me give you some handouts. So we're gonna do the same activity using this strategy, the I statement strategy. I'm gonna give you, each of you, a scenario. In this scenario, you're going to transform it into a positive sentence using the I statement formula. Okay? So let me give you this one. Okay, let me give you this one. I have more space. This one, and you can write either like here your statement. So you need to rephrase this with the I statement formula, right? And you can do it here. I'm gonna give you a pen in a minute. You can
Good, right. With
this.
this
Mhm.
right?
I'm gonna give you this one. You can rewrite in the back, and I'm gonna give you this one.
And the back?
Or if you have enough space at the bottom, you can put it there.
Okay.
And you can just take a few minutes, and then you can. And I put the formula here so that you remember how to use it. So if I can have please just one volunteer to share their sentence and how they reframe it, it would be great. Who wants to be that volunteer?
Danny, yeah.
Danny?
Be polite.
The sentence was, your roommate leaves their dishes in the sink for days and it's starting to shed. To
Starting
shed?
to smell.
Huh?
Starting to smell bad.
Oh, to smell.
Okay.
Yes. So I'd say that I feel frustrated when you leave the dishes overnight because it starts to smell and look bad, and I would like you to do your dishes.
Great, love it. You see how the reframing really helps. I cannot really tell him, oh no, I cannot disagree, because if he feels frustrated, that's something that no one can disagree with your feelings. So that's how this strategy can be used in roommate situations, in conflicts or disagreements, to really get your point across in a way that is at the same time assertive and empathetic. And we can just pair all the strategies with this system, which is the STLC system. That's the acronym for Stop, Think, Listen, and Communicate. So it's very simple. Just whenever we have a situation, a conflict, or even a dispute, an issue that we are facing, we can use this system to resolve it and to not escalate it, or to de-escalate the problem. How? Okay, so we stop, meaning we take a breath, we count backward from 100, meaning we give some time to really relax before we react. Then we think, so we think about the situation, and that means consider the causes and what would be the outcome if we react, or depending how we react. And then we give the other person an opportunity to be heard, right? Just as we have an opportunity, or we have the right to speak up and to say what we don't like, we should give the other person the opportunity to talk and also communicate what the disagreements and what the perspective is. And finally, we use all these strategies and the best communication styles that, as we saw, are collaborating and compromising to resolve the issue. That's an effective communication and using strategies to resolve conflict positively. This is my motto. So conflict is not a problem. Just remember that. The problem is not knowing how to deal with it.
Okay.
So this is the end of our workshop, and I just want to remind you all of what we did today and what we learned. So we changed the concept of conflict, or we reframed the concept. We got to learn our conflict style, and we did an activity where we got to apply an excellent strategy, which is the I statements, to rephrase our thoughts. And we learned that conflict is not negative. Conflict can be an opportunity to grow, an opportunity to learn, and even an opportunity to improve relationships. Compromise and collaboration, as we discussed, are the preferable conflict resolution style for effective communication and resolution. And I statements and the STLC systems are great techniques to resolve conflict in the best positive way and to have healthy relationships. Thank you so much for being here today. I really appreciate your time, and thank you so much for listening and attending to this workshop.
Okay,
Thank you for the invitation.
Yeah, and thank you so much.